On this episode of Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition,
reporter Jeannie McBride takes us to the Westminster Dog Show.
All of this and more on Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition.
This is Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition, starring Jade Marshall, Heather Daniels, Amanda Murata, Jeannie McBride, Jay Jackman, and featuring Jen Danzak.
Welcome to Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition. I'm Charlie Transu.
And I'm Jen Danzak. Kenyans have been voicing their anger in the streets of the country's capital. They're responding to the news that there was a 7-hour delay between the time authorities learned of last week's deadly attack by gunmen at a college and the time police finally arrived at the scene. Kenyans are asking whether the delay could have contributed to the high death toll in the attack. Militants from the Al-Shabaab group killed 148 people before being killed by police at day's end. During a demonstration by about 250 students, they passed a truck carrying security forces with red berets and rifles and shouted at the troops, asking where they were. The troops did not respond. The government has said that the Kenyan military, which has a barracks in the town of Garissa, was the first to respond with some help from local police. According to a senior police officer, the police department's paramilitary tactical unit was briefed about the attack, but put on standby because the military said it could handle the situation. Kenya has vowed severe retaliation against Al-Shabaab, and its military yesterday announced it had carried out airstrikes on militant camps in Somalia.
The total eclipse of the moon lasted only a short time, but it still dazzled. Early risers in the western United States and Canada should have been able to catch a glimpse before dawn Saturday. The moment when the moon was completely obscured by Earth's shadow lasted several minutes, making it the shortest lunar eclipse of the century. Some sky gazers complained that clouds prevented them from seeing any of the 3.5-hour lunar show. Some people in Eastern Australia, New Zealand, and Japan viewed the eclipse at night. The total eclipse was unusually brief because the moon passed through the upper part of the Earth's shadow. Longer eclipses occur when the moon passes through the middle of the shadow. The next total lunar eclipse occurs in September.
A Chilean municipality is harvesting legal medical marijuana as part of a government-approved pilot program aimed to help ease the pain of cancer patients. The harvest comes after the country's first planting of pot for medical uses in October 2014. It is the work of a municipality in the capital of Santiago and by the Dia Foundation, a nonprofit group that sponsors pain-relieving therapies. Oil extracted from about half of some 850 plants imported from the Netherlands will be given to 200 patients in the coming months. Planting, selling, and transporting marijuana is usually illegal in Chile and carries prison terms of up to 15 years. But the law allows medical use of marijuana with the authorization of several ministries.
Lufthansa indicated that it was under no obligation to report Germany's National Aviation Authority the fact that Germanwings co-pilot Andreas Lubitz had suffered from depression before qualifying as a pilot several years ago. Germany's newspaper quoted the Federal Aviation Office as saying it wasn't informed about Lubitz's previous depression before the March 24th crash of Flight 9525. Investigators believe that Lubitz locked his captain out of the cockpit and deliberately flew the Airbus 320 into a French mountainside during the flight from Barcelona to Dusseldorf. All 150 people on board were killed. Lufthansa said Lubitz informed its flight school when he returned from a several-month break in pilot training in 2009 that he had experienced an episode of severe depression. It is said he subsequently passed all medical tests. However, German prosecutors say that in the weeks leading up to the crash, Lubitz spent time online researching suicide methods and cockpit door security.
Iranian state television is reporting that the chief of Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard has offered his support to Iranian nuclear negotiators. The reported comments by General Mohammad Ali Jafari come as some 200 hardliners protested Tuesday against the framework deal struck last week between Iran and 6 world powers. State TV's website quoted Jafari as saying, "With God's grace, the revolutionary children of Islamic Iran have succeeded in defending the rights of the Iranian nation and that the Guard and Iranian nation appreciate their honest political efforts." He also said Iran as a nation supported the diplomatic efforts. The Revolutionary Guard is the single most powerful institution in Iran. It exerts a strong behind-the-scenes role in Iranian affairs.
After years of scoffing at the threat of smartphones, Nintendo is doing an about-face and entering an alliance with Japanese mobile game company DeNA to develop games for mobile devices. The announcement means that Nintendo's trademark games such as Super Mario and Pokemon could finally feature on smartphones and tablets. Such characters have been fiercely protected by Nintendo, appearing only on platforms such as the Wii home console and 3DS mobile machines. Both sides say they will build a membership service for global consumers for various devices. They said the mobile games won't be mere adaptations of the games already out on the Nintendo machines, but developed especially for the smartphone experience.
The White House says it is consulting with former CIA Director David Petraeus about the fight against the Islamic State group, despite his admission that he gave classified material to his biographer and mistress. Petraeus has agreed to plead guilty to a misdemeanor count that carries a possible sentence of up to a year in prison. The retired four-star general allegedly gave the biographer 8 binders of classified material. White House spokesman Josh Earnest says Petraeus has strong relationships with Iraqi military and political leaders. He also says Petraeus is regarded legitimately as an expert on Iraq's security situation and that it makes sense for senior Obama administration officials to seek his advice occasionally. Ernest says he's not aware of any security precautions being taken due to Petraeus's legal situation.
Tunisia's health minister says the death toll in a dramatic museum attack has risen to 23 people, including 18 foreign tourists. Saeed Aidi said that 5 Tunisians were killed, including 2 gunmen. Authorities are searching for 2 or 3 possible other accomplices. He says several victims were brought in without identity documents. Monsef Hamdan, an official with the Charles Nicolle Hospital where many victims were taken, said 7 of the dead remain unidentified. Spain's foreign minister said in Valencia that 2 Spanish tourists were found safe after hiding in the Tunis museum the night after the attack.
An Egyptian court has acquitted ousted President Hosni Mubarak's top security official of corruption charges. The verdict handed down by Giza's criminal court cleared former Interior Minister Habib El Adly of all pending charges. He was expected to be released soon. El Adly oversaw Egypt's notorious police, known for its abuses and human rights violations. The case is linked to his years in power, during which he was accused of illegally amassing 181 million Egyptian pounds, or $25 million. He was acquitted of other corruption charges in earlier trials. El Adly was also acquitted last year of killing protesters during the 2011 popular uprising that forced Mubarak to step down. Coming up on Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition, Jay and Jade take over the anchor desk.
And Jeannie takes us to the Westminster Dog Show. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition. I'm Jay Jackman.
And I'm Jade Marshall. A police report says wealthy eccentric Robert Durst was in the possession of a revolver when he was arrested at the New Orleans hotel on a murder charge in the death of his friend in Los Angeles. Durst waived extradition is expected to be taken to Los Angeles to face murder charge. His attorney says that the extradition is being delayed because prosecutors in New Orleans are considering charges. It is not clear on what those charges are. The district attorney's office is not commenting. Durst is accused of killing his friend Susan Berman in 2000 and has been suspected in the disappearance of his first wife. He was acquitted in the killing of his neighbor.
Governor Kate Brown has signed first-of-its-kind legislation under which anyone with an Oregon's driver's license will automatically be registered to vote. During a signing ceremony, Brown said the bill makes voting more secure, cost-effective, and convenient. Officials say it will add about 300,000 new voters. Oregon is the first state to shift its system from one where voters opt in to one where they instead have to opt out. Under the bill, the Director of Motor Vehicles will electronically transfer information to the Secretary of State, who will then automatically update voter rolls. Voting age adults with IDs issued to the DMV would also be automatically registered. Opponents raise concern about potential voter fraud, the cost of implementing the measure, and whether the DMV can ensure personal information remains secure.
A judge says a 96-year-old woman whose late-life marriage to a 95-year-old beau was widely publicized should be returned to her longtime Northern Virginia home after the musician Cher promised to pay to fix it up. In a court disposition, Cher said she was inspired last year by a news story about Edith Hill and her newlywed husband, Eddie Harrison. Their marriage became embroiled in a court dispute over whether Hill had the mental capacity to marry her companion. Cher said she would help pay for the upgrades to Hill's family home in Alexandria. Earlier this month, a judge said Hill should return there once repairs are complete.
The number of people seeking U.S. unemployment benefits basically held steady last week as the job market continues to outpace broader economic growth. The Labor Department says weekly applications for unemployment aid rose slightly by 1,000 to the seasonally adjusted 291,000. Jobless claims have been subdued for the past 2 weeks after winter storms caused them to spike at the end of February due to the closed schools and construction sites. The 4-week average, a less volatile measure, increased 2,250 to 304,750,000. That average has dropped 7.5% over the past year. Weekly applications are a proxy for layoffs. When employers keep their workers, it is generally a sign that they expect continued economic growth and will likely increase hiring. Applications below 300,000 are typically consistent with healthy job gains.
A jury has convicted Johar Tosniev of all 30 counts he has faced stemming from the 2013 bombing of the Boston Marathon. Tosniev was found guilty Wednesday on charges that include conspiracy and the use of a weapon of mass destruction. Of 30 charges, 17 are punishable by death. Tosniev's lawyers admitted he participated in the bombings, but he said his now-dead older brother was the driving force behind the deadly attack. In the next phase of the trial, the jury will hear evidence on whether Tosniev should get the death penalty or spend the rest of his life in prison. 3 people were killed and more than 260 were injured when twin pressure cooker bombs exploded near the marathon's finish line on April 15, 2013. And now we have reporter Jeannie McBride at the Westminster Dog Show. Let's take a look.
You might be thinking this is just a playground for dogs, but believe it or not, this playground is an agility course, and these elite athletes are taking their talents to New York City for the Westminster Dog Show.
I think it's like an exclusive club, per se, at the Westminster, so that's why I'm like really excited that I can say I went to Westminster.
With the Westminster Dog Show, you usually think pedigree, but now with agility, mixed breeds are in the competition.
I think it's fun. It's something different. I mean, to say I'm going to Westminster, that's really cool. So
I'm actually less nervous about the agility than I am getting around the city.
French Bulldogs Brutus and Carmen, along with Xenon the Sheltie and Riser the Beagle, are ready to take home a win. These owners have spent hours training themselves and their dogs, and some spare no expense.
there are sports doctors for dogs, chiropractors that come to the shows that will adjust your dog. In fact, on Monday I had her adjusted so that she doesn't have any issues. There's massage people that come out and will massage your dog during runs.
These dogs had to win several titles just to compete, but getting a chance to jump at the biggest dog show in the world is a victory in itself.
And this is something fun. It's a social event. You get to see friends and talk with friends and cheer them on, and just, have a lot of fun and get out there and try it with your dog and say, oh my God, did you see the dog do that,
Jeannie McBride, Lights, Camera, Akron.
Stay tuned for more on Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition.
Welcome to Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition. I'm Jay Jackman.
And I'm Jade Marshall. The Ohio River has begun receding after cresting at its highest level in 2 decades, but forecasters warn that the flooding problem will linger. The National Weather Service says the river crested at 57.7 feet, or 7 feet below the 1997 levels that caused widespread flooding. Forecaster Brian Coniglio said it's expected to gradually fall, but will remain above the 52-foot flood stage most of the week. Melted snow and rainfall caused the flooding that swamped roads, businesses, and homes and scattered low-lying areas in the Cincinnati region. The Weather Service expects a few dry days ahead to help. The village administrator in New Richmond, some 20 miles southeast of Cincinnati, says at least 5 homes were flooded and the water is covering many roads.
Toledo officials are looking to expand a loan program, even though it has given out nearly $2.4 million in loans over the last 25 years that have not been repaid. The Blade newspaper in Toledo reports that those loans weren't repaid because companies went out of business, filed for bankruptcy, or just stopped paying. Toledo's economic development director says some of the loans should have never been issued. The city wants to double the maximum loan amount to $200,000 for its enterprise development loan program that is designed to create jobs and help small businesses. The newspaper's review of past loans shows some exceeded the cap set by the program, and one company paid back the city less than $8,000 of a $350,000 loan it received in the 1990s.
The Consulate General of Japan says 422 Japanese businesses facilities in Ohio are providing a total of nearly 71,000 direct jobs. The Japanese Direct Investment Survey shows despite a small decrease in the number of facilities last year, approximately 1,500 more workers were employed in them than during the previous year. The consulate says the numbers are as of last October 1st. Manufacturing companies account for the majority of Japan's investments in Ohio, and nearly 90% of the employment gains in 2014 were automotive-related positions. Japanese investments are distributed across 62 of Ohio's 88 counties. Overall, the jobs are concentrated in central, southwestern, and northwestern Ohio. Honda operates an auto assembly plant in Marysville and has other manufacturing plants in the state.
President Scott Scarborough says changing the school's name is among the ideas being considered in the school's strategic planning. Participants in planning sessions have brainstormed many ideas for the university, including a possible name change to reflect its unique strengths and polytechnical and professional fields, along with career-focused applied learning. This is one of the many ideas that are being evaluated as part of the ongoing strategic planning. Scarborough's statement doesn't include potential new names, and he isn't commenting further about the possibility. Lawmakers would have to approve any name change because public universities titles established by Ohio statute. The school began as Buchtel College in 1870 and has been known as the University of Akron since 1913, when it was transferred to the city. It has been the state university since 1965. If it changed names again, it certainly wouldn't be the first institute of higher education to consider such a move. Hundreds of colleges and universities in the U.S. have altered their names, and sometimes that upsets supporters or alumni. In Northeast Ohio, for example, there are linear objections to the decisions nearly 5 decades ago that created Case Western Reserve University from the Union of Case Institute of Technical and Western Reserve University.
Cleveland police say they have arrested a juvenile male after his gun fired while he was fleeing an officer. Police say a Cuyahoga County Protective Service officer flagged down a police officer to report seeing a teen boy walking around with a firearm. The police officer spotted the youth and asked him to stop, but he said he started running while drawing a revolver from his waistband. A gunshot was heard after he was out of sight, and police say they found him hiding in a backyard. The police say a handgun was recovered and he was held for discharging a gun within city limits and carrying a concealed weapon. Police say there were no injuries. His name and other information weren't released immediately. Police say investigation was continuing.
Transportation officials say they are going to double the rate of pavement replacement projects on the Ohio Turnpike this year. The 241-mile roadway across northern Ohio is 60 years old, and officials say the pavement is overdue to be replaced right down to the dirt underneath. That's why the state is stepping up on construction work in 2015. The Turnpike has its largest capital improvement budget in more than a decade this year, about $125 million. 2 projects on the board are 5- and 6-mile sections of the westbound lanes in Cuyahoga and Sandusky counties, respectively. The eastbound lanes of these stretches were done last year. Pavement projects also are planned this year on the eastbound lanes in Lorain and Trumbull counties.
Recently, the University of Akron's National Panhellenic Council hosted a University of Akron version of the old show Wild and Out. For those who don't remember, Wild and Out is a competition between 2 teams where all the jokes are completely freestyle. The DJ and the audience made the decision on which teams go home with the title of Comedy Champ. There are different games that they play, like the one called Let Me Holla. In this game, members from each team had tried to take their best pickup lines on one girl, and the funnier the better. The NPHC put on the comedy show as one of the annual fundraisers that they do every year. As a tradition with any NPHC event, the members of the different organizations did some of the best strolls around the room. At the end, one team won and had the entire room laughing. It turned out to be a great event.
Thank you for watching Lights, Camera, Akron News Edition.
Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ZTV LCA.
Also, check out all the new WZIP/ZTV app on the Apple App Store. See you later.
This program was produced by ZTV at the University of Akron. To find out how you can make Emmy-winning media, visit the UA School of Communication online. ZTV. Make media. Make a difference.